in strange times.
Okay. Hello, Traci. Welcome.
Hello.
This is here from KPMG, and we have Traci with us today from KPMG US. Traci, would love for you to introduce yourself before we start, and then I can also introduce why you're here today.
Strange times.
Some strange feedback.
Looks like there was a video playing in the background, but we can start.
Okay, so maybe I'll just introduce myself. So Traci Gusher, and I'm a partner in KPMG in the US, and my responsibility is I oversee our AI analytics and engineering team in the US practice in our consulting business. And I also am responsible for for KPMG's global artificial intelligence platform, which is called KPMG Ignite.
Yes, amazing. And today, Traci is here with us to talk about women in tech and discuss the gender disparity in the workplace, how her experience was being a woman in a field that is mainly male-dominated. And of course, that is ever-changing, and we are evolving as a community, as the world. But Traci here has a unique perspective to offer us today. And so as 500 Women Scientists Dubai, which is the chapter of 500 Women Scientists Global, we're here today to speak to her about these topics and get more insight about what it's like to be a woman in tech. So to start us off, we have one question for you that's a little bit of a throwback. So what were your life goals at the age of 18? And what did you aspire to be back then? And how is that different from what you're doing now? Or how is that similar to what you're doing now?
So I would say that it's completely different. Where I grew up, and in the time that I grew up, where I was raised was a very small town that was quite rural, and in that kind of environment, as well as in the time that I grew up, most of the jobs for women, or at least what girls were coached to be when I was there, was women did one of a few things. You were a homemaker and a mom, or you were a teacher, or you were a nurse. And obviously 3 of the most important professions that anybody could have. But that was kind of your life goals. Were you going to be a teacher? Were you going to be a nurse? Or were you going to be, a mom and a homemaker, or some combination of those things? So when I was 18 and I was getting ready to go to college, I thought, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And that's what I went to school for, was teaching. And so, when I was 18, my outlook on the world and what I thought women could be and what I could aspire to be was very, very different than, where I ended up spending my time and where I ended up, really getting to in terms of my career and what I focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's similar across the globe. You'd expect that maybe different cultures have that varying different experiences when growing up, but it actually has been the same for women across cultures, across continents. And so I definitely relate with that. My mom, my grandmother have been through that as well, and they feel the same way. And what's amazing, though, is that you chose a field that's completely out of track from that. How difficult was it to change that track and to say, I'm doing something different, and it might have never been done before in my community, but I'm going to pursue maybe not tech in the beginning, because I am familiar that you didn't get into the field first, but if you can tell us your journey of getting to this field as well.
So it's a long, twisted web that we weave as we, develop and grow our careers. But for me, I went to college. I became a teacher, and I started teaching, and I wasn't teaching but a year, and I realized that my heart just wasn't in it. It just wasn't something that I had a passion for in a way that you need to. And the best teachers in the world are people that truly love what they do, and wake up every day energized about it. And I just didn't have that energy about teaching, and I was doing myself a disservice. I was doing students a disservice by trying to fake that enthusiasm. So I decided, okay, what do I do with the degree that I have? What do I do with what I think I'm good at? And I ended up working for a telecommunications company in their investor relations and corporate communications group, doing a lot of things like helping with them writing their annual report and speaking with investors. And so writing and communicating was something that I had always done pretty well with, although I'm not doing a very good job of it today. But that was something that I did really enjoy doing, and I was pretty good at. So I made the shift to corporate world, leveraging the skills that I had, leveraging the things that I could bring to the table in terms of experience and skill sets. And then slowly I just started taking more risks and taking the opportunities that laid in front of me. And it was only a couple years into my career that I moved. So I left, the little town that I grew up in and moved to Washington, D.C. And making that move was really when my eyes got opened to all of the different things that I really could be. And I moved to Washington, D.C. right in the middle of the 2000s startup boom and the age of telecom coming into its own in the U.S. And so there was a lot of entrepreneurship happening. There was a lot of new startups popping up. There was a lot of excitement about what could be in our corporate environments at that time. So I joined a small startup where I was basically the jack of all trades. I did everything from help them build their website to I helped them actually organize their payroll. I helped them to meet their HR requirements. I was basically their entire back office. And that was really the first endeavor that I was in where it was just, these are the tasks ahead of you. These are the responsibilities that you need to have. Figure it out. And, I learned more in the, year or two that I was with that company than I did in all of my college education or in any job that I had had to that date, because I was really being challenged to figure things out. And that's really when I started getting involved in technology, but both by, teaching myself how to build a website for them and how to organize and how to understand the systems that they had and how to improve the systems that they had and make it work for their company. And that's really when I started building my passion for, the intersection of business and technology. And still today, I consider myself as, someone who is at the intersection of business and technology. And that's where I've focused my entire career with KPMG. I've been with KPMG for almost 20 years. I left that startup to come to KPMG, and the roles that I've had and the opportunities that I've had and the experience that I've gained has really, continued to build on those two pillars, the pillars of technology and business, the intersection of those 2 points.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's definitely amazing to learn from a smaller organization and then move to a bigger organization. But there's also challenges that comes with that, of course, and being able to grow within such a large organization is also not easy. It's definitely has its own challenges as well. But one question we have for you is, why is data analytics important to you? So out of technology, data analytics plays a different role. It also plays a different role in our lives today. It's a very different type of technology field, and a lot of us that are in this field are passionate about it for a certain reason, or maybe there's a certain story. So what was it that made data analytics so important to you?
It's a few things, really. So my focus on technology started maybe 15 years ago. And when I started focusing on technology, it was predominantly in systems implementation, ERP systems, finance systems, supply chain systems, et cetera. And it was very much about the tech. It was about, what kind of technologies are the best fit? How do we configure those systems to meet the business problems, et cetera? And very early on, I recognized that the systems are great in terms of storing information and helping to run a process, but they also contain information that is just a wealth of opportunity. And, at the time, most of the organizations I was working with really weren't using those systems and the data that was in those systems to garner information, to garner insights. And so as part of my role in technology, I started looking more and more at how do you get insights out of all of the data and all of the information that's being stored in these systems. And that really became a focus area for me. I think that even today, we still struggle with the difference between insights and data. And, when we talk about, so very frequently in this field, we'll say data and analytics or data analytics, et cetera. And to me, there's very different things here. There's data, there's analytics, and there's technology. And they are three interwoven things, but they are different. And so when I think about data is its own opportunity and its own challenge in terms of what we can help our clients with and the types of opportunities that you have to influence and to change data. Data quality, data management, data transformation, data enablement. These are all really imperative things in the data lifecycle and necessary if you want to get to insights. And insights I still struggle in talking to some of my clients about the difference between a report and an insight. A report is a bunch of information. It's KPIs, it's statistics, it's numbers on a page, it's a percentage. But an insight is what you can do with that information, that data, that statistic. And that's really where my passion lies, is in driving the insights that come out of the analytical models, that come out of the analytics that are based on that really hard data to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And that's actually one of the reasons I got into the data analytics field is realizing it's not just about aggregating numbers. It's not just about summarizing certain financial KPIs. It's about knowing how to dig deeper and find answers that may have not even been, or maybe the questions haven't even been thought of before. So being able to dig through, I guess, and see questions that might have not been asked before. So asking questions that are not visible. And that's really great. And I guess now we're going to change a little bit of our track and talk more about women in tech. And one question we have for you, and it's one that I also got from the community of women from 500 Women Scientists, is what has been your experience with regard to representation of women in tech? And can you tell us about an instance when you were challenged as a woman in tech in a leadership role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, I feel like I'm one of the most fortunate people in the universe, to be honest with you, because I belong to an organization that has never made me feel anything but an equal in terms of being a female in consulting, a female in technology. I've never felt unsupported. I've always felt like I've had advocates. I've never felt like being a female in my organization was a disadvantage. So in that realm, I know that I'm a lucky one compared to the situations that a lot of other women are in their organizations or in their communities. So I just feel very blessed that I'm lucky enough to be with that kind of organization. But that doesn't necessarily mean I don't have any challenges. There just simply aren't enough women in technology, and there simply aren't enough women in analytical fields. The team that I run in the US is about 350 data scientists and software engineers. And I strive to get to 50%. From a gender perspective, and having 50% male, 50% female. And it's really hard. It's really hard to find the talent because we just don't have enough women getting into STEM fields. And, I think that that's one of the biggest challenges we have is encouraging young women to get involved and to be interested in technology, to be interested in analytics, to be interested in data. One of my colleagues, Swami, actually runs a boot camp teaching young girls how to code using Scratch as a personal interest of his, and it's so cool. He's teaching like girls in like the 3rd and 4th grade how, what intelligent agents are, what dialogue management is, and how to, how Siri works, which I think is just unbelievable. And those are the kinds of things that we need to be doing if we want more women to be in technology. Is we have to start with getting them interested. We have to start with getting them involved in the opportunities that, in helping them be aware of the opportunities that lie in front of them. I think that's a big part of where the disparity is in having enough women in tech today. But as far as challenges that I've had, like I said, I feel very blessed in terms of the opportunities that I've had to develop and the opportunities that have been put in front of me that I've been able to capitalize on. But I will say, both in working with clients as well as, even within my own firm, it's not abnormal for me to be the only woman in the room. And that happens a lot. And I can't count how many client, executive rooms I've been in where, the entire room is a technology team, and I'm the only woman in the room. And I think that's just that's the result of what I was saying before, that we just don't have enough women entering this field. And the women that are in this field, I think, have a responsibility to figure out how can we help more women get excited about a career in technology, get them excited about the kinds of opportunities they have.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that we've also noticed, and it's been also evident through research and through recognizing what the numbers are at organizations, is that it might not only be that there's limited talent or there's not enough women entering the field, but also the aspect of promotion and females gaining more experience in order to gain more responsibility. So there has also been research on that, in fact, that yes, if there are women in the field, they might be finding it difficult, or there might be reasons why they're not being promoted to higher roles. Have you seen that in your experience, and what is your input on that? And one thing I'm going to mention is something called the modesty effect, after hearing your answer about this topic.
Yeah. So I think that, the whole concept of leaning in, right, and heads up thinking is are principles that as women we need to embody. And all too often, I think that just our nature is to keep our head down and get the work in front of us done and excel at doing it, but not necessarily lift up and take credit for it, or B, ask the tough questions as it relates to our futures. Some of the best advice I've ever had in my career was by our now former chairman, Lynn Dowdy. And a long time ago, she told me, Traci, don't ever expect to get something that you haven't asked for. And I kind of said, what do you mean? And she said, if you want a promotion, if you want new experience, if you want a new challenge, don't expect that somebody's just going to give it to you. You have to ask for it. And I think as women, we're really bad at this. I think that we tend to think if I'm just performing the best, if I'm giving the best output, if I'm getting my job done the best, that I'm just going to get recognized. And that's a nice thought, but you have to own it. You have to, and I like saying it that way, like own it.
Into it too.
Yeah. And she really made me kind of think about it. And I thought, it's very utopian to think like, if I just do all the right things are going to happen. And that's just not necessarily the case. Yes, you have to be doing all the right things, but you also have to be asking for the things that you want. no one knows that, that job is the one that you want. No one knows that, that different area of experience is something that you want to have. Only you know that. And if as women, we want to be promoted, if as women, we want to continue to grow, we have to let it known. We have to let it be known. So, saying, I'm really interested in promotion in the next 2 years. What are the things I need to do to get there? We have to be bold, and we have to ask those questions, no matter how difficult they are, and no matter how uncomfortable it makes us to be asking for things for ourselves.
Yes, exactly. And that directly relates to what I wanted to mention in terms of like the feminine modesty effect is what some research calls it. And it refers to the social norms that dictate women to behave in a certain way as to not to want to admit that they've done something great or promote the fact that they've done something great, but rather be selfless. And then that selflessness would turn into maybe advocating for others rather than advocating for ourselves. And it might be seen as gloating, or we're just showing off in terms of trying to promote the achievements that we've done. And I think that definitely relates to what you're saying. And I 100% see it in real life as well, is that it's not maybe we're shy, but we want to be selfless, and being viewed as modest is preferable for us. And we really feel like it stems from that. And women all over the place have to really work on that. And I really agree with that. And I'm sure anyone viewing this will also agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that on this topic, we tend to think about it in just black and white, which is I'm either being selfless and modest and crediting my team and crediting others, or I'm being demonstrative and arrogant. Mm-hmm. And the reality is you don't have to be either, and you can be a little bit of both. You can take credit for your work while also giving credit to others. You can stick your head up and say, I think I deserve this. And part of it is because of the team I bring with me, right? There's a gray area in between these that we can capitalize on. And that's kind of the magic space of being able to still try to stay true to ourselves. I won't have a single conversation about where I've grown and where I've gotten to in business and in the firm without saying that it's been enabled by amazing people that I work with. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the teams that I've had. And, I'm not going to give that up in the face of trying to be promoted. The teams that I've worked with are the reason I'm here, but I'm also here because of the things that I did and the things that I did with those teams. And you have to be able to have that gray area combination if you want to stay true to yourself, but also, be able to put your head up and own what you're accomplishing.
Yes, exactly. And having that confidence to say both, and not to shy away from saying, I don't know this, and someone has helped me do this, and they should take as much credit, but also that I had the initiative to do what I did. So that's where the hard part comes in, and where we kind of start to maybe be a little hazy about admitting that. But one thing that's important is the support we receive, and maybe the mentors we have in our lives, or the leadership roles that have helped us become leaders. So what kind of support have you received that was particularly impactful in helping you build that confidence, helping you believe that self-promotion in terms of admitting what you did was great, and having the confidence to say that? What kind of impactful, I guess, either experience or relationship or mentorship has helped you to be where you are today?
Yeah. So, I think that this is a really important topic for anybody trying to build a career. And that is the topic of advocacy. And one of the things that, again, I feel very blessed on is that I've had great advocates, and advocates that were both helping to make others aware of, who I am and what I can do and the potential that I have. But also advocates in helping me to understand how to be better, that mentorship aspect. For my first 8 years with the firm at KPMG, I had a performance manager who taught me more about business in the 8 years that I worked with him than I ever could have learned in business school. He really looked at the areas that I didn't know, the areas I didn't have experience in, and he took the time to make sure that I understood them so that I could be better. And also was that, outward facing advocate of mine, telling other people, this is why Traci's good. This is what Traci's good at. This is why we need to foster her growth in the firm. And, after he retired, I hit the lottery again with working very closely with someone else that did the same things. In addition to that, I've got a few fantastic mentors, and they're people that I really respect for various different reasons. And I've got very different mentors. So I have one mentor who's a female leader in our firm that is, not just a mentor, but also a close friend. And she's really great at, she's just a role model in terms of the way that she conducts herself, the way that she gets to that gray area, but also just her leadership style and, the way that she impacts and influences others is just a great role model for me. But she's also a friend. So she can slap me upside the head and, and say, why aren't you taking credit for this? You need to put your head up. You need to pump your chest out. You need to take credit. She's that kind of performance coach that says, you need to own it. And it's kind of that tough love that you can only get from a friend that gives you the confidence to think that you can. And I have another mentor that's very, very different. And it's a male mentor who I look up to very much. He exhibits the values that I want to exhibit as a leader. He's very business focused in terms of, how do we create a business environment that is conducive of success. And he's a calming factor. He's the stress reliever. He's the one that says, okay, I know you're stressed, but let's take this down a notch and let's figure out how to solve this. Right. So, it's kind of like two completely different mentors that I balance on to get different kinds of advice depending on the situation that I'm in. And that's the kind of community that you have to find for yourself. And it's not something that can be forced. And I think that's the issue that a lot of women have with mentorship is that they try to, pick somebody and say, I like them. Will you be my mentor? But if you don't already have, or you don't feel like you can craft a bit of a symbiotic type of relationship with somebody, then it's very forced and probably not effective. And so it's something that you have to organically look at and organically look for, and identify the opportunities to get it for it to be valuable.
Yeah, definitely. You've hit on some great points, and mentorship is something that is deeply discussed when it comes to women, not just in tech, but women trying to pursue their careers as well. Because having a personal mentor, like a friend, and a professional one as well, is really beneficial. It could make or break the way we think about things as well. Because sometimes we get too into our heads, and we need that outside factor to give us a boost of confidence, for example. So that's true.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing about mentorship. I myself mentor a number of different people, and some of those relationships work better than others. And I think that a mistake that a lot of people make, and I did this early in my career, is making the mistake that being having a mentor puts the onus on the mentor. And that's not the case. You as the mentee own what you get out of your mentor. So just as an example, I've been a mentor for some individuals who have asked me, Traci, I'm looking for a mentor. Will you be my mentor? And I've said, yes, absolutely. And then when I say, what do you want to get out of a mentorship relationship with me? What are your goals in terms of how I can help you? And 7 times out of 10, crickets, nothing. It's, well, I'm just hoping you could be my mentor. Well, what do you want out of our relationship? What is it that you need help with? What are the questions you have for me? How can I interact myself into your life to help you grow your career? And so, there's, many people think that getting mentorship is just about finding a mentor, but actually being a mentor should be less work than being a mentee, being a mentee means that you're going to be seeking out specific guidance. You're going to have objectives for what you want from a mentor. And if you don't have those things, then don't ask somebody to be your mentor. Get to those things and then find somebody that meets those objectives and be able to clearly demonstrate and articulate what you want out of that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely not one-sided, and it's definitely a lot of work, because if you want someone to have that relationship with and that support, you also have to put in a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And of course, most of it needs to be organic, otherwise it won't be as open. That's really great. But one thing I actually wanted to talk about next, and you touched on, is having a male mentor, or basically how can we engage men in the conversation of women in tech, and how can we help them understand that they also too help us advance, and they are a critical part of the support that women want to receive in order to succeed in the field and the challenges they face. Because ever so often you hear that, okay, this is about women in tech, so men are out of the conversation. Or this is a group, 500 women scientists. No men can be involved in that. So what are your perspectives on that? And how can we involve men more in the conversation for them not to think that this is a forum only for women? Because they are really an integral part of the community that will help us advance and get to the goals we want to achieve as women in the industry.
Yeah. The way that I view it is by asking for partnership. So, I've asked some of my male colleagues to get involved in some things with me. Whether it's targeting an all-female university and looking for talent at that university, helping with recruiting efforts is something I've asked some folks in the past to do. I actually had a colleague who was involved with Girls Who Code in his local community, given a relationship that his wife had with teaching and with students. And having learned that he was involved in that, I said, hey, let's team together and let's do more with this. So those kinds of partnerships. And I mentioned my colleague Swami before. He's taking it upon himself to help get women involved in tech at a younger age and to get them excited. And so I also look for folks like him who are advocates for girls and women to get into the technology field, and look to partner closely with them to figure out, how can I help him have an even bigger role in helping more women succeed in technology. So there's a piece of not just engaging with others that you think could be impactful, but also looking at those that are making a difference and helping to encourage them and get them more opportunity to be even more involved.
Yeah. So what's maybe one sentence or piece of advice you would give to any other gender that kind of feels like they don't know how to help, or how can they get involved? So maybe a piece of advice.
Yeah. So, I think that you have to self-identify. You have to be able to say, I think that not having half of our data scientists in the US firm is something we need to overcome, and I'd like to help. So I ask them, step up, step forward, help me, help. And it's unfair for me to take a position of saying that, I'm doing amazing things to encourage women. I think that I do some things in my own way with the women that I mentor and the women that I work with. But, I'm not championing any Girls Who Code groups right now. I haven't taken some huge demonstrative steps forward. Some of my male colleagues are doing more for this than I am. And so, not only having them be able to step up and say, this is something I really want to be involved with, but the flip side of that is recognizing them, recognizing their efforts, thanking them for the things that they're doing, and making sure that others know that this isn't just something that happens. It's something that's encouraged and rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great advice. I guess shifting gears a little bit and focusing back on women in tech is, what's some advice you would have for women in tech who are experiencing imposter syndrome, the ever so popular imposter syndrome, where they believe they are not good enough, or in fact that they are not qualified for the roles that they're doing, despite the fact that they may have had great achievements, they are qualified, but still have that feeling when it comes to being in a team or organization. They just feel like they're not good enough when it comes to that. And that's something that's really common.
Oh gosh, yeah. And this is actually something that one of my mentors and I have talked about a lot, is that, I still wake up and think, oh gosh, somebody's going to realize that I'm really not very good and I'm going to get fired today. I mean, I still have days I wake up and say that. I still have days that I wake up and think I'm not, when is somebody going to realize I'm an imposter, and yeah. And, I work with a lot of women that I've talked to that do that every day. And, it's just, what's that old book? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, something like that. Right. And this is just one of those differences. Men don't feel that way. They don't wake up. They wake up and say, what am I going to do today? I don't know what men wake up thinking. I'm not a man. Right? I'm not going to pretend I know what they wake up thinking. But I feel like the impression is they wake up and say, these are the things I need to do to be successful today. And I wake up and go, God, I hope somebody doesn't realize that I'm really bad and I'm not very good at what I do, And, it's actually taken me talking to a lot of other women and hearing women that I really respect and that I think are like among the best in the world at what they do. It's taken me hearing from them that they have the same challenge to recognize that maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm better than I think I am. Maybe I am good at what I do. And I'm just, and actually a female colleague of mine said something that, that changed my position on imposter syndrome. And she said, if you wake up every day and think, I'm not as good at my job as I should be, or I'm an imposter. When am I going to get recognized as not being somebody that should have the role that I have? She said, you can fight it and you can try to convince yourself of it, or you can embrace it and do something with it. And she said, I've chosen to embrace it and do something with it. And what I do is I embrace it by saying, what am I going to do today to make myself feel like I'm good enough? And what am I going to do today that is going to prove that I'm good enough to have my job? And, not try to fight nature, but embrace nature and do something with it. And that's kind of the mantra that I've been taking now too, is, okay, am I going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I am the best person for this job. Nobody's better than me. I have no flaws. No. But I am going to wake up tomorrow and say, okay, if I'm feeling inadequate, what am I going to do today that helps me feel adequate? What am I going to do today that proves to myself that I'm good at what I do?
Yeah, that's really powerful advice. Thank you so much for that. So then I think with our time, we might close off with one question, which is, what is one thing that you maybe have put into your routine every day to make you feel more confident, to make you feel more control of the day, and to help you achieve your goals in baby steps? Because just having one big goal that's scary to achieve and that seems far off is a hard way to fathom how we can get to it. So what's one thing that you have embedded into your routine over time, or something that you've learned to do maybe occasionally that helps you take those strides, gives you that confidence boost that you need in the morning, or that you need at the start of your day?
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that gives me confidence and gives me a feeling of empowerment that has nothing to do with business. So every morning I wake up and I work out. I go for a run. I have a Peloton that I use at home. I bike, I swim, whatever particular workout fits in for the day that I have, depending on when my day is starting, etc. That is the way I take ownership for my day, because that is, 45 minutes or 60 minutes. That is me and only me, and it's only for me. Nobody else is benefiting from me working out other than me. Nobody is getting benefits from it but me. Nobody is involved in that activity but me, except on the occasion that I get to work out with a friend. But for me, starting the day out with something that is just for me is, and that benefits only me, gives me a sense of ownership of my day that is really important to have going into it, because, you know, something that you know, all the women scientists that we're talking to this morning are going to recognize is, as your career begins to grow, you actually get less and less control of your day and your calendar. Believe it or not, you think that like you're going to start to have more control over what happens in a day. You actually get less. So taking that time at the very start of the day for something that's just for me is an empowering step. The other piece of it is that what I've learned is I am not a morning person. I hit my stride like starting around like 10 or 11 in the morning, and I'm good until like, you know, the you know, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. But like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., I am not on point. And so it's taken a lot for me to do this. But the other thing that I know is that, you know, exercise produces endorphins, and exercise reduces the kinds of, I feel it all day. I feel a drag all day. I don't have the energy I need all day. I'm not as positive as I am all day. So, you know, I wish I had some brilliant routine that I get into on how do I organize my business, and how do I organize my thoughts, and how do I prepare very strategically for the things ahead. But the reality is that working out every morning is the best thing that I do for my ability to get what I need to get done in a day done.
Yeah, definitely. And I really, really connect with that, because I try to do that too. Not necessarily always a morning person, but I try to, as much as I can, work out in the morning. And that for me is, I would need something other than what I do every day, other than business, other than my career, to just zone out. And that, I think, is very mentally healthy. That really helps me clarify why I'm doing what I'm doing too. You have that time to just think while you're doing something completely physical and external. So yep. I really agree with that. And thank you so much for that. Today was a really amazing conversation. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Marie, we had Traci Gusher with us today, the US lead of AI analytics and engineering. And we hope that you can continue this conversation. We'll continue this conversation definitely with also other speakers. So thank you for setting us off. This was the first webinar, hopefully one of many. So thank you so much, Traci, and have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.